we still have 55% of studies that failed, not because the drug is not good, but because they could not recruit enough. Another number that blown me away is that we only proposed to 5% of potential eligible patients to participate to a study.
The paradigm shift to become proactive, to diagnose yourself and proactively manage your health before you really get sick, that's a huge.
What if tomorrow we have a protocol made 100% by an AI? How it will look like? It will look like an alien, but I'm sure it would be amazing. Now the question is how much human will trust it? And what fascinated me there is that AI was better in every category, including empathy.
Hello, everybody. Today we have a great guest, Stephen Pire. He's the Director of Product Management at Medable. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very excited to be here today.
You're very welcome. Today we're going to talk about the impact of AI on drug development and clinical trials. Stephen, before we get started, you recently joined Medable as the Director of Product Management after 9 years at AstraZeneca. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe you can go over what motivated you to leave AstraZeneca and join a tech company after this extensive experience with Big Pharma? Love to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely happy to share those details. So basically, from very early age, I wanted to have an impact on health. That was something very strong in me. One of my brothers has handicap, and I really wanted to be able to have an impact to change this paradigm. So very early age, I oriented myself to become like a researcher. So I went to university, I learned biochemistry, then I did drug design because I realized where I could have the most impact is by creating drugs. So I went to this field in drug design. My master, I had the chance to do an internship for 8 months in Sanofi Aventis, which gave me a glimpse of how life is in a pharmaceutical company where really we try to find a drug. That was fascinating. So I continue in a PhD in this launch in drug design, and I went to a public lab in France in a CNRS, and that was different experience. But what I would say by that is that I realized that this job of finding drug, I could already feel it would be 100% replaced by AI very shortly. So I had to find something else because I would be out of job very quickly. And especially AI could do better than me. So why would I continue in this field? So at that time, I say, okay, now I understand how we create drugs, but I have no clue on how we deliver the drug to a patient, how we test it, how we do this drug development, which lead me to shift career a little bit and moving toward industry, and especially in the world of clinical trial management. So I started as a CRA, managing site. I wanted to understand more. I moved to the global team. And while I was a CRA, I moved to a few CROs. So I discovered the world of CROs there. And at some point, I was CRA outsourced for AstraZeneca. And then they told me, hey, you're a good CRA. We like you. Do you want to become part of our global team? And I was like, fantastic. I want to learn more. I want to understand how we manage clinical trial as a whole. So I did this as well for some years. And at some point, I was realizing that something was lacking. It was about 6 years ago that managing clinical trial is tremendously complicated. And because of that, we are so reactive to the way we are doing work. And that was a big problem to me. So I started to be a little bit of geeking on Excel and trying to do my own tools to be able to make myself more proactive, some kind of crazy dashboard. And at that time, AstraZeneca had an idea to build the first department of digital health. And one of those concepts was to create product to help study team to be more efficient. So basically what I was doing in Excel, I had the opportunity to, hey, do you want to become a product owner and to do this for everybody differently? And I say, yeah, that seems interesting. Now I understand how clinical trials work in general. I'm happy to move to my third career in product management. So within AstraZeneca for about 5 to 6 years, I was in product management, but within a pharmaceutical company. And about like less than a year ago, AstraZeneca decided to have their own tech company called Evinova. And at that same moment, I had an opportunity within Medable that convinced me with a 1-1-1 vision, which is a vision that is literally how we can change this paradigm of having 15 years to build a clinical development and bring a drug to market, but how we can shorten it to, let's say, 1 day. You recruit in 1 day and you deliver your study in 1 year. how we can do that. So having this vision literally pushed me to follow this path because this is a vision that I believe since I'm very young, and I want to be an actor in that. And I believe Medable has will be able to have such an impact on this journey. So that's a little bit of the long journey of what bring me to Medable.
Excellent. It's quite interesting talking with a lot of people. Like people don't come to pharma and clinical trials like when they graduate from high school, like this is what I want to do. It feels like almost they stumble on it or because of a personal story, personally. And you spoke about your personal story here as well. I subscribe to like to move it to 1 day model. I always challenge people like when they at our industry we're good about 10% improvements, and I
Yeah,
always say, how about 10 times better? And that's going to
exactly.
force you to think differently, right? Because 10% you can probably achieve it one way or another, but we keep squeezing the same business model. We're not doing fundamentally something different. Listen, I
Totally.
was looking at your LinkedIn, and in your about, you said, quote unquote, unleashing the future of clinical trials. This is your mission. I am in a mission to shatter the 15 years drug development barrier. And I heard you back in December when we were at the Evolution Summit speak about this. And one of the things you said, you spoke about the shift from sick care to healthcare. Let's talk about this a little bit more. How do you envision this transformation happening? And do you see technology play a role in this shift as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about technology and why I'm so obsessed with this, as of today, if I tell you, yeah, go back to use a phone that was 15 years old, you will say, why would I do that? No, it's too old. It will not have the capacity. But we absolutely do this with our health. We are using drugs that has been conceived and with a technology of 15 years old.
Yeah,
So this is something I want to change as a paradigm. So that's literally one of my mission, how we can bring the best-in-class drugs faster to patient. And we do clinical trials similarly since 40 years. We do it the same way. We have the same kind of randomized clinical trial, which was a golden standard. And we try to improve the process. We digitalize the paper. Before everything was recorded in paper, then we moved to digital. Yeah, good, improvement. But it did not change the length of the clinical trial. And then after we say, okay, let's try to have some very complex study, like platform study, so stuff that you can test many things at the same time. And in the end, we still didn't decrease the time. Recruitment is still increasing in timeline. And the price of those development keep increasing. So I think that the way pharmaceutical industry trying to conceive optimization of clinical trial is just going to the wall of being more and more expensive and less um, practical to actually deliver a drug is going to be fundamentally different. We need to have a fundamental different way of thinking to be able to deliver that. And now we are at the age of AI. And I think one thing that AI always teach us is that we're not that good at doing something. For example, we thought we were the best in class in Go. And I'm not talking about chess because chess is pure brute math in the end. But the Go is a game that requires intuition, things that we thought that only human can do. And then we put AlphaGo, this AI that was able to even with AlphaZero when he learned by himself, able to crush our best Go player by doing things that we never even thought it was possible. It was some kind of move that human never think about it. So one of my intuition is, what if AI could teach us how best way to actually bring a drug to market, how best way to build a protocol, how best way to recruit patients, or maybe to not even need to recruit them. So I believe that AI will help us to fundamentally change the model of how we deliver drug to patients.
excellent. So let's dive in a little bit. You start talking about recruitment, right? We've been doing the same things over and over, and we're expecting different results, right? And that's not gonna
Insanity.
happen.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, let's talk about recruitment. And how do you see AI improving patient recruitment in clinical trials? What do you see the current challenges, and what potentially the solution to solve for this?
Yeah. So before to talk about how AI changed it, I think it's important to think about the evolution of recruitment because there was a small evolution, if you think about it. So at first we were, at least I have about 15 years now in clinical trials. So back in the day, 15 years ago, The target was to be able to be as close as possible from key opinion leader, KOL. If you had a good KOL, potentially you could recruit a lot. And then this has shifted toward site. Then we say, oh, actually, no, we should have a great relationship with site because good site will be able to recruit more patients. Good. But as of a result, as of today, we still have 55% of study that failed, not because the drug is not good, but because they could not recruit enough, which shows that the current paradigm does not work. Another number that blown me away is that we only propose to 5% of potential eligible patients to participate to a study. So what do we do with those 95 other percent? Definitely did not work to talk with a KOL or talk with a site. So I think now we need to focus on the patient, how we can empower patient to be in charge of the journey, how we can empower patient to understand that it is not to be the one to participate to a trial. Everybody can participate to a trial. If there is a need, there should be a way, an easy way for them to get an access to know where they can be having a trial. And this is where I think AI can be a very good tool, especially with large language model, because large language model have an ability to democratize some very, very complex information and to process delivering this message to you, to just you, regardless your level of education, where you are, your language, it can provide you this personalized information. So let's imagine you are a patient and you don't know at all anything about clinical trial, but you hear from a friend that you have one place, like a Google place or like a Wikipedia place, one place where you can go and just chat with a virtual PI, virtual study coordinator. And this one will ask you in maybe 10 questions about your health. Oh, what do you have today? Oh, I have a lung cancer. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear about that, but okay, tell me more about it. What kind of lung cancer do you know, etc. And extracting information from you. And after those very few minutes of discussion, provide you information about, hey, you seem to be very eligible for 4 study around you. Do you want me to get you in contact with it? And we could even push further with ability, for example, to upload your own medical file and say, hey, I received this resist assessment. I have no understanding what it means. Can you tell me more about this? Obviously, with all the security, etc. But how cool would it be to empower everybody to get in touch with clinical trial in a way that talk to them? So I think this could be one of the way to change the paradigm on how we build recruitment, going where the patient is rather than focusing on where the site are.
Excellent. So you basically want to capitalize in the LLM success that happened recently. We saw how enterprise organization like CEOs and CFOs can go to ChatGPT, ask a question, get a response. And you see, I think Gardner said that back office people immediately became 10 to 30% productive, and they can feel it, and they're having that
Totally.
chat, and you have a follow-up question, it gives you further answers. It's like, and typically as an executive, we probably need a week to organize a meeting, and somebody does the research, and boom, 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 you're getting all this response. I love the way you personalize it, and actually you show the passion and the emotion, how you interact with the chat GPT, and it's quite interesting, because I think a lot of times patience and trust is the biggest challenge in all these technologies. And somehow we need to break that barrier, and we need to rise up to the occasion to ensure that the privacy of the patients are in place. I know one of the things in the past, I am passionate about blockchain, and I wasn't able to sell it very well to the rest of the industry. Unlike ChatGPT, you can feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blockchain, what is that?
It's
It's
less
more,
tangible for people.
yes,
Definitely.
yeah, exactly. Nice. One of the things that I heard you talk about, and this is really another topic that I'm really excited about, and we love to chat about with you, is digital twins, right? I heard you talk about it. Can you first explain to our audience what is a digital twin? Are, and how would they potentially transform clinical trials in the long term? I know I say transform clinical trials because I heard you, so I'd love for you to dive a little bit more. Let's have a discussion about it. I think it's going to be an educational session for us today.
Yeah, with pleasure. So if we go back to the concept of digital twin, it is actually not something that is very new. It's actually a very old technique. It's all about modelizing a model that exists in reality, but modelizing with a very high precision virtually so we can test and put some constraint. For example, do you want to be the first patient or like passenger in a plane that will fly for the first time without any trial? We do a clinical trial of flying with the first time on a plane. No, you want to test this plane as much as possible without any human inside. And this is why they do digital twin of this plane to try to see what if you have a thunder, what if you have those specific meteorological conditions to make sure the plane will resist and not break down. So that is a concept of digital twin, is literally converting a model to a digital model and testing it. Now, if you push it with the human side, at this very stage, we cannot digitalize the full human body. Why? Because we are extremely complicated, way more complicated than a plane. We have so many molecules inside of us, so many receptors, we cannot modelize everything. So the concept of a clinical trial today, with our current, I would say, a computational capability, we are going to take specific biomarker that is part of your body that we know will be able to help an algorithm to predict outcome of a specific disease. So let's say we're going to look for an oncology trial, or yeah, and then we're going to take specific biomarker, and then you will have a model that will be your digital twin that will be able to say, what if I give you this drug? And we're going to keep monitoring your activity and giving an update to your digital twin of where you are as of today. And with those new parameters, you will be able to predict, oh, based on what I know, in 6 months, the progression of the disease seems to be fine. You will be stable. This is for the next 6 months, but probably in 1 year, you will be progressive disease. So this is one of the things. We will be able to have your virtual you, which we can put in any different kind of environment, different kind of condition, and we will be able to see how your body is expected to move out of it. Could be an AE, could be an SAE, could be your progressive disease. So this is how it's work. And now what really impressed me in this technology is that we always try to recruit faster. Like I was in AstraZeneca in another company. The question is, how can we recruit faster, more diversity and faster? How can we do that? We know that faster means faster drug on the market. So the patient can receive the drug faster. And this is all what matters to me. But one of the questions I always ask myself is, if we want to rethink about it, can we recruit less? Can we generate more evidence from the patient we have, and can we predict evidence? And this is all about what is digital twin. It's about predicting evidence based on real human. So we are not yet there talking about synthetic human. It's not fake human. It's a digital representation of a real patient. And there is one company called Unlearn.ai that already do fantastic things on this concept. It was about like a year and a half ago when I was really deep into looking into the white paper and what they did. They successfully generate up to 23% of patients in a control arm that was a digital twin. So that means that instead of, let's say, having 100 patients in a control arm, you only had 73. Which is crazy. So that is something that it's changing paradigm. You need less patient because we can simulate those information. And when I went back to the system, I think now they can go up to 45% of the placebo arm. And I think that the more the computational power will enable to take more parameter, the more we will be able to unbalance the need of having real patient versus digital twin. And maybe, and this is a much more maybe for longer term, when computational power is no longer a problem, let's say when we have quantum computing, we should be able to conceptualize to modelize a full human body and to have a real digital twin of a full body and potentially going to a patient-less clinical trial. But that's a little bit further on the line.
It's quite interesting. I think one of the things about digitizing our human body is could start at the day of birth, basically by giving a drop of blood that get analyzed and store all information about you, and then potentially getting into that your secure area where you have that information with the ability to share if needed, basically in anonymized way, etc., to identify any potential life-threatening diseases, etc. So you're really going from sick care to healthcare because you're being proactive about this.
Exactly, because literally that will be your own self in your phone, for example, or anywhere in the cloud. And we would be able to predict any kind of adverse event that would happen to you in your real life, any kind of change of your human condition. So we will be literally be able to make preventive medicine rather than curative medicine.
Yeah.
And that is a paradigm I cannot wait to see coming to life.
Yeah. You know, it's quite challenging because every time I spoke about this in the past, people feel like, well, how are you going to get the patients to do this? Like, if I'm healthy, why would I do something like this? Because a lot of times you don't think about this, right? You know, it's like, I'm healthy, I'm good. Why would I even, what am I get in return? And some of the concepts was like it's I'm your your digital health advisor as well. As you grow, I can predict certain things. There's something in return for me. What's in it for me? Because I think Google in the early days tried to create that health storage for us, but it didn't take off because there was nothing back, right? You were storing, and we at pharma love to store data, right? We execute large. You talked about how complex it is and how hard, because our inclusion and exclusion criteria is way too complex, right? To include those patients in the study. So you end up with down to 5% of who really can potentially participate in the study. But you're really, I love the way you're thinking because we're bringing the data into life, basically. Now you're
Mhm.
getting the insight, then and it's impacting the most is the quality of life of people. And people really start to realize, and I've seen it in my family, my father and my brother and my mom. You start to see when they get really sick. That's when like people's like, oh my God, I need to do this, and we're not proactively thinking about our health way before this happened. I know you brought up an example. You recently watched, I think, a video about some pharma basically doing to becoming more preventive than providing this. And you wanna just give? I love that story you shared with me earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you ask a lot of questions within it, and there are so many ideas that come to my brain there. I think one of the things is that the perception of pharma is generally wrong. And when you go to Netflix, for example, every documentary or every movie that talk about pharma or drugs is about how villain pharma world is, how villain we can cure everything, but we don't do it, etc. We want to over make people pay, etc. So this is something that is very, very deep into the mind of people. And I think that contribute to maybe having less appeal for people to go into clinical trial. Because I know obesity clinical trial has no problem to recruit. People run to it, but oncology trial, no one.
Yeah.
And it was for a buyer, pharmaceutical companies that did a webinar, fantastic webinar. And there was one of those team members that was responsible for the machine learning and analytics that was all for preventing medicine, to be able to make sure that well algorithm to be able to prevent an occurrence of cancer before it's happening. And a lot of people would tell me, because I heard that, because whenever I talk with my friend, hey, I want a world where no one is sick, where we can predict the sickness before, some kind of minority report of sickness. And my friend, while I was in pharma, say, but you will have no job. And I was like, this is the conception you have of pharma. We are not making money because people are sick. This is not this. To me, the pharma should be an industry that focus and is an industry that focus on health. So if we have an ability to have models to predict when you're going to be sick, that would be so much better than to wait people are sick. And that would be better for everybody. No one like to be sick. So why would I want to be sick? I would prefer to be preventive, never be sick, and act before to be sick. The government would prefer you not to be sick because we spend so much money on healthcare, so much money on insurance. So the full global scale would be way better if we could shift this paradigm. one of the things struck my mind about people don't necessarily take attention of their health until they have a health condition. I think there may be two reasons to that. Some of them, a little bit like the Schrodinger cat, you don't know you're sick until you make the diagnosis. You
Hmm.
don't know it. So I know some people very close to me that don't want to do a genetic test. They don't want to do a prostate cancer assessment just because they don't want to know if they have something, because they believe that if they are declared to have a cancer, they will die in 3 months. And that is something they don't even want to hear about.
Oh, wow.
So I think, yeah, so I think this is something that we really, really need to shift paradigm about our health. But I think it's coming, when I see people starting to eat better, we empathize more about eating more balanced food, eating less junk food, having a much more better quality of life, better work-life balance, which reduces stress, reducing the risk of cardiovascular issue. I think that there is a trend of being a healthier, doing more sport. So
Yeah.
maybe we will be able to change this paradigm of what is pharma, what is the contribution of pharma in the world, and how you could make your life better by providing simple information. And I think this democratizes it. You see, for example, this watch is a Google watch, not
Yeah.
making an advertisement for them, but it's fantastic. But we already give a lot of people give information from that and get feedback out of it. Oh, you did much better. Oh, your cardio is better. Your pulmonary function is better because of that. I would love to have it more than to be a gimmick of your today-ish life, something much more deeper. Oh yeah, your lung function is so much better now. You can do these other things. So yeah, that's really something I would love to have any impact, if ever possible, but as a whole society to go toward this direction.
Yeah. This is quite interesting. I mean, I think from an economic perspective, from insurance, healthcare, we don't want to get into that by any mean, but the paradigm shift to become proactive, to diagnose yourself and proactively manage your health before you really get sick, that's a huge. People manage their money. I think their health is more important, down to the penny, right? This is where like I see the paradigm shift. I completely agree with you. I'll share with you a story. When I was at Pfizer, our CMO Frida, she said she was with a driver, basically was driving her off at the Pfizer office. And he asked her, "What do you do for a living?" And she said, "Well, I work at Pfizer. We conduct clinical trials." I said, "Oh, you pharmaceutical companies have all the cure, but you hide it for the right moment. You don't want to release it because you want to make tons of money and what have you." And a lot of my friends exactly says the same, like, no, not really. I wish we have all these formulas that we can release
Yeah,
the cure.
I'm sure everybody in pharma can have the same story. I had the same story of one of my very old friend that I did not meet for 10 years or 15 years that I crossed in a subway. He say, "Oh, what are you doing, Ninja?" I say, "Oh, I work in pharma." I say, "Oh, you work for the villain. That make us sick all." No. So yeah, we all have the same kind of,
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's a Donner-Kruger effect. They know a
yes.
little bit and they extrapolate all the rest.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing that, and there's quite few of us are out there who's trying to make that shift, basically. Hopefully it will be successful. People like you will make a huge difference, for sure. So let's look into the future. I want to hear from you, like really what excites you most about the future of clinical trials and the pharmaceutical industry. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for innovation? We're talking about AI, LLM. We didn't get a chance to talk about LAM, large action models and all this connectivity, etc. Love to hear like where do you see this is going? Where the biggest opportunity?
Yeah, I think number one, and that bring me back to the very early stage of my career in a drug design. I can see now how drugs can be like generated effortlessly, I would say almost effortlessly, because in one side you have AlphaFold that has an ability to modelize protein better than we ever even dream of. And that's such a revolution. It's crazy. I could talk for hours on this one, but it's crazy. And on the other side, you have some other algorithm that has an ability to have this protein moving in every shape and try to find any kind of drugs that would work. And then when you have compound lead, you can have even a million of compound lead, then you can predict the efficacy. by modelizing and synthesizing. So literally the way to bring a drug to market, to bring a drug to clinical trial has never been easier than it is today. And there is even a company called In Silico Medicine, which is insanely amazing company. This is the first company that I heard that is not a pharma company that bring a drug to market. It was for fibrinosis and pulmonary fibrinosis. And literally it took them, I think, a year and a half to bring a drug from the concept to preclinical and to phase 1 and have orphan drug assignation in US for less than 200,000 patients. And that is something I never heard of. So literally, it shows that if you apply AI the right way, you can make a huge shortcut in the way you are doing things. And when I mean shortcut, I'm not talking about the COVID shortcut that people think, oh, you give us a drug that has not been tested. No, nothing. And even that was not a shortcut. It was just everybody prioritized to develop this drug. But I think that already the first phase, we can find drugs way better than before. The second phase, I think that we have tremendous way to be able to utilize the data that is already there to either synthesize synthetic control arm. So we have the real world evidence.
Yeah.
So that means we can make shorter study with less patient, less time to have element. So I think AI in general will be able to act as recruiting faster, need to recruit less, and potentially streamline the creation of new generation of protocol. Because today we use our brain to do a protocol, but what if we use an AI brain to do even more perfectionized protocol? That is something that fascinated me. Because as I mentioned, AI always teaches how to do things better. No one else than a human created a protocol as of today. And a protocol is very complicated. What if tomorrow we have a protocol made 100% by an AI? How it will look like? It will look like an alien, but I'm sure it would be amazing. So I'm really looking forward to see how AI will disturb ways that we never even thought about in how we can conduct the delivery of a drug. That's something I'm really passionate. There's so many possibilities, and I'm looking forward to see this future coming to life.
So you think AI is going to disturb us? I agree with you 100%. I actually love your idea about the study design. And I think this is the biggest challenge for us because we always depend on the heroic efforts of the individuals that we have within our company. Now imagine if we bring all that historical data for all the study we conducted that takes into consideration the therapeutic area, the culture, the patient's input, the investigator input, and what's our surrounding. And that's all it could be in that specialized model, basically, for this.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. We'll end up with an amazing protocol. Maybe it's not going to be 100% accurate, but I think the stuff that this brings to life is going to be amazing based on everything else we're seeing right now. I think it's a matter of time before we get there.
Now the question is how much human will trust it. And what I mean by that is that I saw an amazing article about the AMI algorithm from Google. And the AMI algorithm is basically the algorithm that was there to try to be able to diagnose a disease and to provide a prescription. And they make a randomized randomized trial, not clinical, but a randomized trial where you had fake patient that was talking with either a physician or either AMI, this AI, and it was all by typing. No one knew if they were talking to a real human or to an AI. And we are not even talking about Turing test there. It's literally drug test, physician interaction test. And when this is done, you have a committee of physicians that is going to analyze the discussion and to be able to rank. And them either do not know if the people they're analyzing is actually a real human or an AI. And what fascinated me there is that AI was better in every category, including empathy. They feel
Wow.
way more
That's
connected.
the I believe everything until you get to empathy, basically.
Yeah,
Wow.
everything, including empathy. So, and that was a consensus between the fake patient and the actual expert. They all say that AI was better. Then they make another try. They say, what if we take the best of both worlds? We take an AI and a human and we synergize them. And you would expect maybe it will be even better. But no, it was less good than the AI alone. It was better than
Really?
the human alone, but it was less good. So taking this in mind, if an AI build a totally alien type protocol that we never even thought, in which way we as a human that does not necessarily understand the full concept of this new protocol because we cannot assimilate so much information. How are we going to believe in it and not crush it in a way we think, oh, no, this doesn't seem right. Let's do it differently. So
Wow.
I'm really curious to see how we are going to be able to handle those information. And even from a regulatory point of view, they will be the first time they have to approve such kind of protocol. Aren't they going to ask some weird questions? Say, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
a
yeah.
big paradigm shift in industry.
That's amazing. So protocol design using AI, having less patience, in order to fulfill the promises of the endpoints of the study, real world evidence. I actually think one of the hardest thing when somebody is really who's sick and you're giving them a placebo drugs, right? That's the hardest. Like when we talked, when we have those one-on-one meetings with patients and investigators, that's the hardest thing, especially if they are really the quality of there's a huge impact in their quality of life. So it's that's crazy.
Absolutely. And if you're looking to the digital twin that we have today, is already tackling this problem by trying to limit the amount of patient that is needed in this placebo arm or standard of care arm. But you talk about the real world evidence. The placebo as standard of care is something we already have every day in hospital because people already have their life. So we just need to find a way to have more standardized way to be able to say, we want to test this drug and we're going to use this EMR information, those information from medical because it's already there.
Yeah,
How can we make this works without breaking any privacy, any things like that? But how can we do things where we can only test the molecules that works and be able to utilize the real world data to be able to compare with? That would be so much better.
amazing, amazing. Very impressive. Stefan, I really enjoyed the conversation with you today. It's an eye opener. Hopefully, it's an eye opener for our audience as well. This is the way we're going to make a dent in the clinical trials execution model. Otherwise, we'll continue to do what we've done in the last 40, 50 years, 15 years worth of drug development, etc. And this is how we're going to shorten the cycle of drug approval to the industry. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the conversation with you.
Thank you, Munther. Really a pleasure to be there. Discussion was sparkling with me as well. I really enjoyed it.